Pleased to be able to welcome Sam Birchall to this week's Meet the Teacher. Sam's been with us since just before Christmas, about October-ish kind of time.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yep, so about 5-6 months coming up now, which is just superb, and really become a key member of our team teaching here at the studio. But I noticed straight away though, Sam, you've got something weird going on with that guitar because there's no top on it, you've got a bit of weird cutouts and stuff. So why don't you start off by telling us about what the guitar is you've got there?
So slightly strange, it's a Strandberg, which is a headless guitar. Headless in that it's got no headstock. So the tuners are actually down here. Okay. So the idea is it's a bit better balanced. You can sort of balance it on a finger like that, and it should be sort of in playing position.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just easy to travel with.
And also you got the frets are angled. What's that about?
So the idea was that as your hand travels up the fretboards, it naturally wants to curve inwards anyway. Yeah. So it's meant to make that a bit more ergonomic. Okay. It's very subtle though. Yeah.
So do you find it makes a difference to your playing?
It's been so long since I've played a normal guitar, I'm not sure anymore.
There it is. So how have you got into these Strandberg guitars? Like, presumably you started on a standard electric type thing.
Yep.
How did you come across these?
My favourite guitarist when I was a teenager was Paul Masvidal. And he didn't play a Strandberg, so it didn't exist then, but he played a Steinberger, which was the first ever, I think, headless guitar. Okay. And I just thought that was so cool. Like it was from space or something.
It's a bit like idol worshipping.
Yeah.
It's like, he's got one, it's got to be cool.
And then Steinberger stopped making guitars, and Strandberg started making guitars. And okay. Like, that's cool.
Okay, and so you kind of swapped over.
Yeah.
Interesting. Must be a bit easier to carry around as well. The bag's not quite so
absolutely. Most people mistake for a tennis racket.
Yeah, maybe don't play tennis with it. So let's start back a little bit before you got into your Strandberg guitars. Where did your musical journey kind of start?
It had like a failed start when I was about 10. Okay. When I learned the trumpet. Okay. I hated every minute of it.
Okay, interesting.
Fell out of love with that, and then when I was a teenager, around 13, 14, I found guitar and found a load of bands that I was into and became super motivated to learn guitar. Okay.
And what kind of bands were you listening to at the time?
Oh, it was like metal, basically. So Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth. Okay. My first guitar teacher actually would teach me nothing but Metallica and Megadeth riffs. Okay, that was it? Yeah, and for me, that was amazing. Yeah. For someone that didn't like Metallica and Megadeth, possibly not ideal, but I loved it.
Yeah. And do you know, did the teacher kind of adapt and change what he taught to other students, or was he just like, I'm Megadeth?
I think that was him. Okay. He knew all the Megadeth riffs, all the Metallica riffs. AC/DC as well, like you branch out a bit there.
Just go off slightly off piste, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So he basically turned all those songs into teaching materials?
Yeah, that's it. Every week you'd learn a new riff. Yeah. I have fond memories of learning the solos to Hangar 18. Yeah. That was my favourite thing back in the day. Okay. Other stuff as well, like little Van Halen licks and things like that. Yeah. But it was very much like rock and metal was his thing. Yeah. But it's perfect for me.
But that suited you, obviously, and kept you motivated and kept you going.
Yeah.
And so at this time, so you're listening to stuff like Slayer and whatever, were you, and you're learning their riffs and playing their songs and whatever, were you in bands at the same time as all of this?
Yeah, so the typical sort of teenage bands where you're trying to make a racket and sound cool and just do something interesting. Yeah. And none of them ever made it anywhere, but heaps of fun.
And was this the kind of slightly old school, let's get together in someone's garage and that kind of thing, just like proper kind of grassroots music making?
Multiple complaints from neighbours, things like that. Trying to cover the sides of the garage in egg cartons. Never worked.
No, exactly.
Support against.
Interesting. And so, and then you continued from there. Did you do music A levels or anything like that?
Weirdly, no. Okay. So I was absolutely obsessed with guitar, but for some reason, I can't remember why, I think someone dissuaded me from taking music GCSE. Right. After that, though, I decided to go to Guitar Institute and do a diploma in music performance.
Okay, and that's based in London, isn't it?
Yeah.
Guitar Institute, yeah.
So that's just music full-time, I think 4 days a week, something like that.
So you were just then completely engrossed and immersed in this like amazing world of making music.
Oh yeah, it blew my mind. Yeah. I was the metal guy going in, and then I soon found out that was great, but I needed to learn other stuff to adapt.
There's more to music than metal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what kind of stuff did you experience when you were there?
Jazz was really cool. Yeah. So that was like a whole new thing to me. And I just love that there's this system for understanding soloing and licks and things that you could actually sort of write down on paper and get to grips with.
So up to that point, had you been learning through tabs and ear and that kind of stuff. That was it.
Yeah. So the internet was a thing back then, and whilst YouTube wasn't a thing, tab websites were.
Okay.
So there are loads of websites to find your favourite tabs.
Yeah.
So I wish I'd done more stuff by ear back then.
Okay.
But I did a lot through tabs.
Yeah. So, interesting. Okay, so you spent, 3 years at Guitar Institute?
Only 1 year.
Oh, just a year. Yeah. Okay.
And then I think straight after that I started teaching.
Okay.
So
straight out into the big wide world.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so you've obviously gone on from there and you've discovered this alien-looking guitar that you've got here. But you've also got other interests as well, haven't you? Because you also live on a boat.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
That's a whole other story in itself. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did that come to being, as it were?
So about sort of 2 years ago, me and my wife decided we wanted a project, and don't really like houses. We love boats. Okay. So we brought the shell of a boat, which is basically just a metal box. With an engine, so it sort of works and it floats, but that's about it. And we decided just to try and learn how to fit out a boat ourselves.
That's a project, all right.
It's a bit of a project.
And is it all done now? Is it finished or?
Well, apparently they're never done, and I can sort of see that. Like I say, 70%. Like all the stuff that you need to works. Like my guitar amp can run off solar panels.
Yeah.
Super important.
Okay.
Fridge works.
And so you just kind of trundle your way up and down the canal,
basically,
just changing location every couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're loving it.
That's right. And now coming into this weather, it's starting to be really lovely as well, which is just superb.
We set off as the weather was getting bad, so this is the first time we're experiencing good weather.
Yeah,
on the boat.
I bet that must be a massive relief for you.
Yeah.
And so, what do you do about your music and stuff? You said your amps and stuff run off of batteries. Have you got like a little studio set up? Have you got how do you play in your boat?
Sort of like the guitar, everything's minimalist.
Yeah.
So the guitar's all cut down. The amp setup's really basic.
Yeah.
I've got the pedal board down here, which just has a basic preamp pedal, power amp pedal, and a cab.
Okay.
That's about it. And then everything else is laptop, audio interface.
Yeah.
So perfect.
It all seems to have a nice little setup then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now you're a bit of a technical guitar wizard, a bit of a geek on the technique side of stuff.
Sort of.
So how did you? Does that really come back from your days in metal and the techniques around that, and it's just kind of evolved?
Yeah, I think like I'm less technical now.
Okay.
But I felt like when I was getting into guitar, it seemed like a really obvious way to measure your progress. So I really loved sort of chasing speed goals and things like that. Less sort of interested now, but I can see why it appealed to me back then.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can measure my progress and I can actually chart what's going on.
They're obvious kinds of markers. And
yeah.
Dare I ask, what was the fastest speed you ever got up to? Can you remember?
Oh, I can't remember. It would be depressing now because I won't be able to.
Yeah, but it's some ridiculous speed though.
But something like vibrato, you can't say, I'm 10% better at vibrato this week, and it sounds 10% more musical. So I found stuff like that really difficult to get into because I like to have sort of a method. And that defied all that kind of stuff.
And so how do you in your own teaching now? How do you build that kind of those progress markers, if you like, into your teaching? Because it was clearly important to you as a student when you were learning. And it's important to students these days because everybody likes to feel that kind of sense of progress. What do you do about that in your lessons that's not necessarily if technique isn't the be-all and end-all kind of thing? How do you build those kind of sense of progression in?
You can try and be creative with goals that are creative in themselves. So if you wanted to get good at vibrato, you might have a goal to transcribe a vocal solo maybe and try and get all the little nuances of vibrato happening on guitar. And that's like a really nice way. Whilst it's still not measurable in the same way as pure technique, it's still something that you can look back on and you've achieved a thing.
What's really interesting about when you like transcribing vocal lines is that, and working vocal lines and working vocalists even, is that you have to use your ears a lot more about it, and you take into a completely different world of phrasing and breath points and. Or you've got to hold back slightly here because someone's going to breathe. They have to breathe. They have to generate their sound. So it kind of puts a different emphasis, if you like, on the musicality side of things. That's very cool.
Just having to breathe as well makes it so much more musical. There's like a Howell Crook exercise where you sing what you play on guitar. You soon find out you can't keep up with your guitar stuff without having to stop for breath. And it makes it very human actually doing that, doesn't it? Because everybody breathes. You have to breathe. So it makes it a very human kind of approach to playing, which is just ace. Now I also know that you did you didn't just stop your learning at Guitar Institute. Oh yeah.
You know where this is going.
Yeah.
There was this weird story you told me about how you used to record your playing and send it to someone in America.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I was really into jazz.
Yeah.
But I was still not great at it, and I couldn't get into any jazz universities.
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to find the best teacher I could possibly find and just practice loads. And it seemed like all paths led to this guy called Charlie Benakis.
Uh-huh.
So Mike Stern is one of my favourite players. He used to get lessons off Charlie. Wayne Krantz used to get lessons off him. Jeff Berlin, the bass player.
Yeah.
So I kept hearing his name all around. So I found his website. I was amazed he had a website because from what I know about him now, he's not a technological guy. But he would teach people all around the world via cassette tape.
Right.
So you would have to send him a handwritten essay on why you wanted to study with him. And then if he felt like he could teach you something, he would send back a cassette tape with audio instructions on what to do. And you would have to do that thing in one key.
Yeah.
And within 2 days, send him back a recording of you doing that. And airmail took so long to get back and forth. In the sort of 2 weeks between getting another tape from him, you'd have to do that same thing in all 12 keys.
Wow.
And then it kept on going like that. So
that also feeded the technical wizardry.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because he was very much like everything can be broken down to exercises.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's like 100% true, but that was his thing. And at the time, I loved it.
Yeah. It makes it very easy and achievable, doesn't it? Because I want to develop this. There's an exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so even though he had a website, this was still old school. Record on a cassette.
Oh yeah.
You must have spent a small fortune on airmail.
Yeah, even trying to find a cassette recorder was and cassette tapes.
Yes.
I think there's some cassette tapes on like a dusty shelf in Curry's somewhere, but I snapped and that was about it.
Lots of people now these days won't know what a cassette is, let alone a CD. In fact, it's it was moved on so much of that kind of stuff. But obviously, I mean, you got a lot out of doing that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and how long did that kind of go on for?
I think about 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. A long time.
Yeah, it was really intense.
Yeah.
Like my whole life was just trying to keep up with this lesson material, basically.
Yeah.
And teaching as well. So.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, kind of. It took me a good couple of years after that to actually let it settle and for it to become actually useful in my playing.
Yeah.
Because everything was so much exercise based.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to be creative with it at first.
Yeah. So you've had this really interesting kind of quite technical journey, and you say you're kind of backing away a little bit from that now, putting words in your mouth here, maybe think a bit more musically about things.
Yeah.
Where's your guitar on your music journey going next?
Less notes, I think. So I'm trying to get more inflections and sort of feeling into my playing.
Yeah.
So it's things like vibrato and string bending and slides and all of that stuff that is hard to document, but it really makes your playing sound musical and interesting. Even to a non-musician, they'll respond to it better, I think.
Excellent. Really interesting. Well, we look forward to hearing a bit more about that progress over the next kind of couple of years and stuff. So one of the things we always do in these kind of Meet the Teachers is to find out a little bit about your kind of your musical upbringing, as it were. And so you told us a little bit about your metal youth, as it were. Is there a song or an album or something like that that really inspired you, or grew up around when you're growing up and your parents are playing lots of music? Was there an album that was always on around you, something like that really inspired you and you carry with you now?
I mean, my mum always used to listen to AC/DC.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was basically programmed to love that music from childhood.
Rock from the outset.
Yeah, that was it. I can remember Genesis, Supertramp, all those kind of bands. So I grew up sort of listening to that in the background.
That's very cool.
I didn't quite realise what it was back then, but re-finding it later,
coming back to
it. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool.
And if you had to pass on an album to someone or a track to someone, what would that track be?
I mean, I love, there's a song Die to Live by Steve Vai.
Okay.
And I know how I said my first guitar teacher only taught me Megadeth and Metallica. He did teach me one Steve Vai song.
Okay.
It was Die to Live.
Yeah.
And I keep coming back to it. And I don't realise how much influence it had on my playing. And I keep kind of hearing it again and going, oh yeah, actually I've taken that thing from that song and not realised it.
Isn't it interesting when you go back to pieces and you always find something new in it every time? Like you know, on first play, and you think it's like really straightforward.
Yeah.
And you nail it, and you go back and go, oh, there's actually, I didn't hear that bit in it before. Yeah. There's these extra little layers in there you just kind of pick up and almost like an onion you peel back and there's more and more to it, which is just amazing.
The cool thing there was it was rock guitar, but it was chords and melody.
Yeah.
So he was playing the chords and he was playing melodic fills in between, and I was like, oh, amazing. I haven't heard that before.
And that also feels the technique wizardry for you.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Plus all those little inflections and things are super cool as well.
Yeah. Sam, it's been really lovely catching up with you. Thanks so much for your time today and your music. And we look forward to catching up again in the future.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Look forward to it.